The artist Molly Crabapple actually wrote an open letter calling AI art generators the greatest heist in art history. Hi, I'm Kathleen Ditzig, a curator at the National Gallery, Singapore. Being human in a digital world means caring about how we build the next internet rather than just caring about what we are building.
To help us answer these questions and more, my next guest is Kathleen Ditzig, curator at the National Gallery, Singapore. Kathleen is fascinating to speak to, as she is both an art historian and technology futurist. I'm excited to have her shed light on how she thinks the future of the internet will have an impact on art and the creative process.
Essentially, we have two issues. One, can the artist produce their own licensable IP, especially given we're in an economic system increasingly based on licenses? And then the other is, how do we actually build this AI, and are we exploiting artists in the process? You know, when you talk about the next internet, a human-centric internet, it's really about how we go about building it rather than what we build. There isn't anything inherently wrong per se with working with an AI art generator. An artist can use it. It's no different than using a paintbrush. It's another tool. Now, how this will shift the discourse and how this may shift the way we think about art and society is actually essentially going to be the data sets, the information that we build up, that we feed into the AI, or that we mobilize the AI to produce. And I think the fulcrum of the political issues we'll have in technology will be actually the management and creation of these data sets and how we mobilize and use them. You know, I'm doing research right now in a practice of an artist, Margaret Tan, who developed a work called the Smart Apron. It brought together computing and performance art, and essentially it was an apron that was motivated by her interest in how migrant labor, especially domestic migrant labor, is governed and sort of surveilled and mediated. And essentially what happened with the apron is that if you bent over too much, you did too much housework, or you fell over, the apron would send a message via phone to a message to another phone to indicate that a fall had happened or the body is overtly taxed. Margaret Tan's Smart Apron predates actually the Apple Watch, which came out only in 2014. So advanced technologies offer actually a lot of opportunities for museums. At the National Gallery, we have an innovation lab, Y-Lab, that leans into these different fields. We work with startups to develop technologies that complement and improve the museum experience, but also increase and diversify access to our collection. We also have other projects such as Adopt Now, which is a blockchain-driven project that expands the way we think about patronage. Anyone can essentially be a patron. So Adopt Now really champions this by recognizing smaller forms of patronage, allowing anyone, you or me, to essentially contribute to the national collection and the care of our cultural heritage. Actually, when we talk about meaning and utility and consumption, essentially we need to rethink the systems in which we apply these tools, which we've known this. We need a new imagination for capitalism, essentially, because it's not sustainable with the essential resources we have. Part of my research is actually into a futurist art center that was trying to imagine the new world order because of these issues, that we could come together and do it, and that art was the key medium for doing this. So I think we need to return to this. And if we experiment and innovate with new forms of talking about and imagining commons through these sort of advanced technologies, I think that, you know, we will really move towards this human quest of meaning over consumption. You know, as we move towards sort of a more truly phygital existence, essentially there will be more public spaces emerging online that won't just be owned by private enterprises, but we need to talk about it first. We need to socialize ourselves to this technology. Number two, I actually think we need to strengthen our public institutions and commons, which means actually our buy-in and belief in it. This may be a radical or controversial view, because with a lot of decentralized technologies, the idea is to actually move away from centralization. But I don't think in the process of doing that, we should erode our social institutions or our public institutions because of the very important role and accountabilities that they have that private enterprises don't. Thirdly, and related to this, we have to improve digital regulation, because right now we're across different jurisdictions, different laws. There is a sort of gap when it comes to digital regulation that governments are very quickly trying to catch up with. And then 4, which fundamentally relates to all of them, is actually we have to create greater literacy about user rights and material infrastructures of virtual spaces. I think what we need to ask is, how will the next internet write human history? Because essentially, if we work within our whole lives are going to be defined by the data sets that we fit into, or the data sets that produce the technology that we use every day. We have to actually have a historical awareness of how these things have been produced, and a historical awareness of how we've inherited questions and biases and social issues that have colored its development.
In each human lies a dreamer. The ability to think beyond the status quo and create new things is what has helped us progress as a species. In many ways, the next internet is primed for dreamers. But as AI begins to create art or write thoughtful posts, could the outputs be so mesmerizing and effortless that humans lose their audience to AI-generated products, and in the process, the incentive to create?